Good morning. This is Tales from a Nobody, episode 2, and I am a nobody. This episode is called Wish, and it's going to be a little bit about the Wish Tour. Just before I start, from last episode, a couple of things. This guitar that I played a lot in the last episode has a name, and it is called the Blue Meanie. The name came from two places. I'm a massive Prince fan. Prince has a blue cloud guitar called the Blue Angel. Steve Vai used to play a guitar when he was with Frank Zappa, and I think a little bit after Frank, and that was called the Green Meanie, and I think he had that stolen. So the name comes from those two places, the Blue Meanie. If you ever see it written on a set list, or you hear someone like Ben say, we'll use the Meanie, that's what he's referring to. That's that guitar. Thanks for all the comments, questions, suggestions from the last episode. It's great. The more comments, suggestions there are, the more episodes there will be, until no one really wants to know anything anymore, and then they'll end. Requests for some tour stories. Be careful with tour stories. But there are some good ones that I can repeat. This story is a request from Laura. It's the hot dog story. It's not from the Wish Tour. We were going to a gig, I think it was... we were going to a gig in Germany. So we left town quite late in the evening. We drove to Dover, over to Calais, and then we wanted to drive as close to the German border as we could. So the next day it was a shorter drive to the venue, and I think it was a show with The Cure we were doing. It wasn't 92, it was something like 1998 or 2000. It was something like that. Can't remember. Anyway, we arrive at this tiny little roadside hotel that we're just spending the night at, so we can carry on our journey the next day. And everyone's really hungry. I don't really like eating McDonald's and Burger Kings and things like that. I if you like eating them, that's great. That's fine. Knock yourself out. I don't. I would rather miss that out. So we stop, and that's all there are, places like this. And I'm not eating that stuff. So I wander over a footbridge that's over the motorway, and I come to this little shop, and it's got food and stuff in it, and it's right on the German border because the signs are in German. So I thought, oh, that's cool. So I see hot dog. I thought, wow, it might be a real German sausage, so it'd be good, really good meat and stuff. I thought, okay, let's. Is it any better than a fast food burger? I don't know. Let's try. So I order one, point it and order it, expecting to get this hot dog, and then you get. On tour, sometimes you get these rare surprises, and this is weird because I can't remember exactly the show it was. I'll have to try and look it up, but I can remember the hot dog. Small things, I suppose. So I'm expecting this hot dog. Chap goes off to prepare this hot dog. This hot dog comes back, but it's not a hot dog in a bun. It is a tray of mashed potato with this massive, brilliant German sausage on top. It's mashed potato. And I was expecting a hot dog bun that I may throw away, and I get mashed potato. So there came out of nowhere this mashed potato hot dog. And I couldn't believe it. So I ordered another one because I love mashed potato. And the sausage was a real German sausage, and it was a surprise and a delight. And I walked back, and a couple of the other people with a sort of, where did you get that? And that was the mashed potato hot dog when I was expecting another hot dog. A silly little story, but it made me so happy, and it still makes me so happy. The mashed potato hot dog, when you're expecting a horrible hot dog, when you're expecting a roadside hot dog. Life sometimes serves you great surprises. Anyway, the Wish Tour. Wish Tour 1992 with The Cure. Cranes were in, I believe it was in New York, doing shows when they heard that they had been chosen to do the Wish Tour. And there was something like 28, even more bands in the running for The Cure to pick to do the Wish Tour. And they're in New York doing shows. They got the call. They had been chosen for the Wish Tour. Amazing. So it was very exciting. I didn't do the Wish Tour. I know everyone involved with the Wish Tour. I knew them at the time. When I was talking to Jim about it, he keeps forgetting that I didn't do the Wish Tour. He seems to think I did, but I didn't. It's a shame, but never mind. So they had to rush back from America to sort out visas and flight cases and all that sort of stuff to actually get on the tour. And that takes a little while. And because of that, Cranes missed the first 7 shows. Yeah, first 7 shows. That wasn't such a bad thing, as Robert Smith later told Jim, because there were quite a few technical issues for The Cure on those first shows. I think it was the first time they were using flashlight PA. Was it a floodlight PA? Someone will correct me on that. But I think that was the first time in the world that PA was being used. So there were some technical issues. And on some of those shows, there probably wouldn't have been time for Cranes to play anyway. So it was maybe a good thing that those shows were missed. There was also another little story that Jim told me that Robert Smith told Jim, and that was in Boston, which was actually Worcester, which was just outside Boston, but that was the Boston shows. 68 people returned their tickets to the Cure Wish shows because Cranes were not playing. Which Jim told me that the other day. 68 people returned their tickets, which is quite funny because it was a Cure show. Biggest grossing tour of that year was the Wish Tour. So it was a brilliant opportunity for Cranes to play their music to a lot of people. Their first show made the Cranes' first show 23rd of May. The 23rd of May, that's right. 14th of May was the first show for Cure in Rhode Island, and Crane's first show was 23rd of May in Pennsylvania, I believe. And so they were off. The Cure Wish Tour was in 3 legs. There was the US leg, then the Australasia leg, and then the European leg. The Cranes didn't do the Australasia leg, and that's a pretty good thing, which we'll get to in a little bit. But they were off on the US tour. So a typical set list for the US tour, and specifically the US tour, because the set list changed in Europe, and we'll get to that. But a typical set list for the US tour was Living and Breathing, 6th of May, Fuse, Wish, Adoration, Starblood. And some songs were swapped in and out, like E.G. Shining, Joy Lies Within, Tomorrow's Tears, Inescapable, stuff like that. Cranes had 30 minutes, 35 minutes to play. It was a massive tour. It's great fun. So, yes, some of those songs. on the last episode, a lot of people like the little snippets of playing, so let's do a couple of those songs if I can remember them, if I don't get them right. So We Living and Breathing was often opener. I believe Mark's part was the piano part, which then became my part whenever we played it. It was something like this. Great part. Not too tricky. Odd things going on there. Jim's fabulous writing, as usual. What else on that tour? Something that wasn't played that much afterwards. Try and get this right. Tomorrow's Tears. I never got to play that live. We rehearsed it a few times. I think that's the part. Lovely song. I don't know why we never played that so much afterwards. Yeah, there's lots of Crane songs. Got to choose some and leave some out. Classics that always remained in the set. Adoration. Although I made that last bit up, a couple of sections. Adoration, a pivotal song for me, because I mentioned in the last episode that was one that Mark said, oh, you can play this tonight, but it was out of the blue in a show, in a club that was sold out on the encore. I'd never played it on stage. I'd done it a few times in sound check. Mark wanted to go out and have a drink and watch the encore from the audience, and he literally said, you can play this one, can't you, Paul? I was, yes, off you go then. And he walked off and left me there. Thank you, Mark. It was brilliant, in at the deep end. And it's a scary song because for the first part of that song there's percussion and me on piano and Ali singing, and it's a lot of space. If you play a wrong note on that, it's very, very exposed. So that was very nerve-wracking, but great. Yeah, Adoration. What else have we got on that? 6th of May, the keyboard part was on a backing tape, 6th of May. But it's a great part. Jim's sort of incredible hypnotic drumming on it, but the keyboard part, if I remember, does go. Again, you got what is that? It's really just E minor, the first, the 5th, but the second note, but the top note doesn't change. So you would expect it to go. It doesn't. That's Jim. So you get these 2 notes, but not at the same time. It's brilliant. But what's more interesting, I think, is the guitar part to 6th of May. So let's have a look at the guitar part, 6th of May. Okay. Bit of a noise. Let's get it settled down. So the guitar part, 6th of May, lots of delay, lots of distortion, lots of clever whammy bar use. So the first time that comes in, that's sort of what that plays, ending in that little scoop like that. Anyone remembering that from the Wish tour, remember Mark going bananas on that, which is always a great thing to watch and hear. The second time the guitar comes in, it does something slightly different and it rises up whilst that keyboard motif stays the same. Dun, 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 and Jim's drumming all the way through. Dun, 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 dun. So the second time it comes in, it rises up a bit, like something like this. So that's a really fun part to play. Messed a little bit up in the middle there, but yeah, it's a good fun part to play. But like all of Jim's parts and Mark's parts, they were always great. You could always riff up. Sort of makes you want to sort of go, stuff over it, and there's lots of things. I often make little loops of just that riff. that you can play over. It's good fun. Great guitar riff. What else was on that tour? Wish. That wasn't played too much either after it. There's another great riff that used to start off with not quite so much distortion, lots of muting. And then you hit that chord, if I can hit the chord properly. Then you had more distortion coming in. That was fun to play. Last episode we touched on Fuse, and one thing I forgot to mention in Fuse, there's that massive scrape in Fuse. So you get the and then there's a huge gap, and then the scrape comes in. Now, it was really easy to start that scrape to live to get carried away and just start the scrape too fast, and you just you realise that there's a long gap in that, and you're running out of string, and it's awful if you have to start scraping back up again. So the trick was to stay calm and start the scrape. And elongate the scrape. It's not an Eddie Van Halen scrape, who's a master at it. It's a very long, lovely, painful scrape, which is cool. So that was basically the US leg, and a lot of people saw Cranes. And then there was a break. Cure went off for 3 weeks to do Australasia leg of the tour. That was quite an important break, because what happened in that break was the Forever album, which wasn't released until the next year, but the record was finished. So when the European leg started, you had a setlist change, and Forever songs started creeping in. So you would have the same general set list, but you would get Far Away, Clear and Adrift finding their way into the set. So there were two very, very different set lists. So that was an important break, and which is why I said at the beginning it's quite good that the Cranes didn't do that leg of the tour, because maybe they would never have finished Forever in that break. So they came back to do the European leg, and you had additional songs: Far Away, Clear, Adrift. Adrift is a very fun song to play. You can go really mad on that. just the first line. The end part of the song, it starts off based on that. And then after that, you really have free reign to do anything that fits within that. And I know whenever I play that song, I never plan it. It's different every single night at the end of Adrift. I never play the same thing. It's just how I feel at the time, and that's really good fun. Jim, let's put this down. Jim dug this out for me. We believe this is Alison's copy because Jim wrote all over his, like in a diary style, not ruining it. That is the Crane's 1992 European tour book with all the dates, and it's what every one of the band and crew will get given. And it's let's just turn to a page. There's some room. That's what rooms people were in Lille. But you can turn to any page. So that's a page of the tour book for the band. So on Wednesday, October the 7th, 92, Berlin, venue at Deutschlandhalle, hotel, Berlin Plaza, hotel, phone number, all the address, and there'll be for every, just the details for every show on the tour in a book. It'd be really cool for Jim to find his, because Jim annotated his and he kept a little diary with it, and he is looking for it. But he found this one and he said, I'll take that to show, and that's really great. But it's in such good condition that we think, because there was only one each for each member, so we think that this is Ali's. It's pretty definitely Ali's because it's in perfect condition. So that's every time. Then they would check in, and then Drew, the tour manager, would do a rooming list, so everyone knew who was in what room in the hotel. So if they needed to call, they could. That's great. That's great. Thanks for that, Jim. That's fantastic. And that is it, really. The tour was a massive success. Cranes played to a lot of people, and I think the old adage applies here that if you've got something and you play it in front of people, people are going to like it, and they did. They got a chance to do what they do in front of a lot of people, and it paid off. All the members of The Cure became lifelong friends. It was a fantastic time. The next album was Forever. It's a fantastic album. And Cranes could tour bigger shows, bigger venues with great material. Comments, questions, suggestions, all are welcome. This is Tales from a Nobody, episode 2, and I am a nobody.